let's discuss something interesting. And I actually know that I'm uniquely qualified to discuss this topic. And if you think that's egotistical, that's fine. Some things could actually be egotistical and yet still be true. um, lens design. What is the nature of a true hardcore lens that is just transcendent to all the lenses around it, whether they be of equal focal length or design construction? And that is, some of the absolute very best lenses are greater than the totality of the function of their design. It is the case, unfortunately, that now the Earth is populated with like 6 billion people, and most everything is mass-produced and spit out of a plastic injection mold factory somewhere in China. Let's be honest. And this is also the case with lenses as far as their casing and how the lenses are produced. And a lens, however, is not a piece of pure optical equipment like a telescope here. I have a primary and a secondary mirror from a telescope, not a very big telescope, a reflector obviously, primary and a secondary unit. You know, in that form, people think, well, optics are optics. You have to build a certain set of criteria and you have to match those, and there are CAD assisted programs for designing lenses that will tell you the type of secondary elements to add, and there is still a little bit of creativity to it and ingenuity as far as it's a jigsaw puzzle that can be arranged like about 30 different ways. Usually, however, today the jigsaw puzzle is arranged in the most cost-effective manner. Some of the more recent Nikkor lenses, and most people are not aware of this, like aspherical elements, are still rather radically expensive to produce. And Nikon calls this composite aspherical elements. What they are is they're plastic. Yeah, like the 50mm G Nikkor. The super expensive 17 to 35 f2.8. That lens got some plastic inside of a $2,000 lens. I mean, literally the element is made out of plastic. You know, are you kidding me? I mean, if you go up buy a glass bottle of beer or soda pop, I mean, at least you know, oh my God, you know, for $2,000 you're gonna stick a plastic element in there. So a true hardcore professional art lens, and I don't mean art in the term that the way Sigma has bastardized that term, but I mean art in the absolutist sense of a lens that is transcendent to its technical designs. You have to realize what a great lens can do and what it's capable of, and it is always much greater than the sum of its parts. I mean, here's one, for example. A bunch of people bought this lens off my recommendation. It should be a $1,000 lens. This is just one example, of course. However, it's a really good example. See, a 58mm f1.4 Noctone by Voigtlander. I know Voigtlander's changed hands about 4 times, but it's also the oldest lens company on Earth. At least I think it's still the oldest lens company on Earth. The 58mm f1.4 Noctone made by Nikon costs 5 times as much as this, and the images it produces are nowhere near as good. Yeah, I know this is a manual focus lens, however it is CPU contacted, so it is like an AIP lens. Even if you have a cheaper D5000 or D3000 Nikkor, it will work on it because it has CPU contacts that tells the camera what sort of lens is on it. I've set up a list of criteria that I've perfected over a great period of time, that everything that defines the characteristics of a good lens will fall under, and that is RPG BCD, resolution, phase and gain, and then bandwidth, construction, and drive. Going to the last 3 first, bandwidth, construction, and drive. Construction's kind of self-obvious. how well is it made? I mean, is it metal? Is it injection molded plastic? I mean, I'm not necessarily against injection molded plastic casing lenses. Um, they do feel flimsy, but I mean, you're not hammering nails with your lenses, let's be honest here, and hopefully you have them insured. That does not necessitate that they are of any sort of inferior design. However, on some of the injection molded plastic, if the lenses get hot, there is actually enough warpage from the internal chassis that holds some of those lens elements that if they get out of skew, then you've actually skewed the image. This is also another reason, yet among many, why you never want to let lenses get really, really hot and leave them in a hot car. So construction, that's understandable. Drive. People talk about, well, how fast their camera is, and I've made a video about this. Drive is split amongst many different things. The drive of a lens, obviously it's a manual focus, it's got no drive other than you manually focusing it. The drive of a lens, whether it's an AFS motor, whether it is a silent wave motor, whether it is a G-series screw drive, which is basically gear on gear, or if it is a non-true silent wave motor. See, Nikon actually, I'm going to say lie. They do lie. They'll actually call some of their lenses AFS motors. You think, oh, it's got a silent wave drive motor. No, it doesn't. It's actually got a tiny little motor in there with a plastic gear attached to another plastic gear. And, plastic gears against a cheesy little, we're talking failure. It's not like a silent wave, a hubless motor. One costs radically more than the other one to produce. One is radically more reliable and faster. So the drive of the lens. So it's not just your camera side. It's like, well, my autofocus tracking sensor in this camera is super fast. I don't give a damn how fast you think your camera is or is not. If you stick an old school drive lens on there, your super fast autofocusing camera ain't that damn fast, because autofocus is not strictly camera side. It is also lens side. So that's the drive. The bandwidth. This is the issue. Everything in lens design is a damn trade-off. Everything. And this is 100% hardcore, irrefutable fact. There's no getting around it. You can either build a car like a tank that can't go that fast. However, there's some contradiction here now where we've got diesel-powered war machines that are just plated with depleted uranium, and they are tanks, and they're able to go pretty fast. But that's called taking the analogy too far. Something that's a tank that can't go that fast, or something that is made out of carbon fiber and just zips down the road. All lens design is exactly like this, and it's an irreducible and undeniable fact. If I try to correct this lens and someone says, well, this lens has got some chromatic aberration and high contrast, which it does, you could take the most beautiful piece of fine 18th century Japanese silk and you could say, well, it's old and musty and it's this and that, and you throw some Clorox bleach on it and stick it in the washing machine, and it'll come out nice and clean. You've just ruined it. And these lenses that are over-designed to make everything absolutely perfect, they end up being This is an art form. Photography is an actual art. The qualities that actually make this lens, the low element count, my God, the way this lens renders pictures so far as the micro contrast, the pop, the wow factor, the color saturation, it's exquisite. Its trade-off is that it has a wee bit of vignetting. It will cause chromatic aberration if you like shooting a white flower against the green grass and the sun's beating down on okay, you're going to see some chromatic aberration. If you try to eliminate that out of there, it's just no different than what McDonald's does to meat. Obviously does McDonald's. You could take the finest cut of filet mignon and pass it through a processor 20 times, and it's going to taste like a McDonald's hamburger. You've destroyed it. You've processed it. You've taken what was something that had marbled consistency. It's like, this is an exquisite piece of meat that's normally like $30 a pound, and you've destroyed it. You've turned it into a hamburger patty from McDonald's. And Nikon and Zeiss is really guilty of that lately. Nikon is very guilty of that lately. Very guilty. what they've done is they've listened to their customers and they've made a lot of fundamental mistakes. They really have. All these customers that are bitching and pissing and whining about, no chromatic aberration, no vignetting, absolute resolution. Well, the CAD-assisted lens designing programs that allow for lens design, they don't take into consideration those they have no soul, and this is what they do. They use CAD-assisted lens design programs that would be perfect for designing a primary and secondary element of a telescope. When it comes to telescopes, for example, I've messed with telescopes my entire life and own more than a few. Everything is purely specification output. It's like you crunch the numbers and you design something that has the best numbers. Photography is well, optics are optics. Figure someone tries to call me at the wrong time. Optics are optics, and no, that's absolute BS. It's absolute BS. Photography optics is not like telescope. Well, optics are optics. You design something with a specific design function in mind, and you build it to achieve that goal. Construction is another matter. You make it as well. No, photography optics are not like that. The je ne sais quoi, the beauty, the inescapable, greater than the sum of its parts nature of some of these finest lenses, regardless of their construction, is absolutely transcendent to the soulless output and input of a CAD-assisted program for designing lenses. Can't work. It doesn't work. All these old critters that Nikon and Zeiss put out to pasture because they're like 80 years old now that were designing lenses, they understood this crap. And the modern people, they just don't. It's also a combination of that with, it's like, well, we've got a new lens, we need to spit out 100,000 of them overnight, we're going to do injection molded plastic for the casing, and then, we're going to tool up the factory for spitting out 10,000 of element 1 and 10,000 of element 2, 3, 4, 5, the flint element, the aspherical. Like, some of Nikon's latest lenses have actually been incredible, but they were ultra wides, like the 20mm 1.8G, the 24mm 1. And those have crummy plastic. People have bitched and whined at me. Say, why are you praising that damn Nikkor lens? It's got plastic construction body. Because the output's incredible. There's a Zeiss doesn't even have anything that could touch it. The 20mm 1.8G is untouchable. I'll sacrifice the fact that it has a plastic chassis on it. Okay, that's fine, but there's nothing else optically that matches it or comes close to it. That is a high element count lens, but there is a point. There's the magic point, and it's at 35 millimeters. It doesn't matter what frigging FX, DX. 35 millimeters is the magic point where everything underneath that 24, 18, 20, blah, 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 they necessitatively have to have, by design, to have awesome output, they have to have a generally high element count. There are some old 20 millimeters, like the 20 millimeter f3.5, that do not have that. They have quite a bit of vignetting, like the Voigtlander 20 millimeter, which isn't made anymore. 20 millimeter pancake lens, that lens has got a lot of vignetting, but it's also got awesome color saturation, and it's really incredible. Voigtlander is kind of famous for like making a lens for a year or two, and then they stop making it. Even if it's really popular, they move on to another lens. It's like, if you missed the boat, you missed it, screw you. Voigtlander is like that. They do that. It's like, well, we're going to make it for 2 years. If you want one, buy it then. Right, and then we're going to move on to making something else. If you missed it, the hell with you. And that's how they work. They would be idiots to stop making this lens, however. Even they know that. I'm probably the reason why they've had like a 10,000% increase on the sales of these lenses recently. It's like, oh, there's some fat American that keeps talking about this lens. We keep getting orders for it. On to the other three things. The one thing that everybody pisses about, and it's not as important as you think, because the top 3 money-grossing lenses are not that damn sharp, not extremely high resolution. So resolution, phase, and gain. The gain is the amount of, if you want to think of gain as a t-stop, however, that's not entirely true. It's the gain of the nature of the light and how it actually processes the light. So the resolution, of course, is resolving power of the lens. A lot of that has been, unless it's total junk or Keenan, some of the junky Keenan and Samyang lenses or some of these are really crummy, oddball, freaky lenses made by, some unknown company. Resolution's not really an issue anymore. Phase, how it actually handles the light, whether it places the light in the same place at a different time or at a different place at the same time. This is part of chromatic aberration, how it processes the light. Glass is a dielectric capacitor. Light is electrical in nature. There's absolutely no difference between light and the electricity that runs down your power lines out on the street, except it's of a different nature. Light creates power. Light is power by nature. You increase the frequency way up there, it'll zap right through you and destroy every cell in your body like that, and the power and the capacitance of light at certain frequencies will just kill you in a heartbeat. And light is power. Does anybody not understand that a glass is a type of a resistor and a capacitor? All lens design for capturing that field of view and for capturing that certain resolution, all lens designers that are working with these CAD-assisted software applications, they take into account refractive indices, they take into account chromatic aberration. They end up spitting out about 20, depends on the lens design, between a dozen and 30 different ways you could build the lens. And then, based upon cost consideration and design considerations, the lenses are designed, something is chosen. Some of the most recent lenses from Nikon, like their 35mm 1.4, that lens really, really sucks. It just sucks hard. And I've seen the video from the guy that produced it, and it was in Japanese with English subtitles. Just looking at the guy, and I knew he had no soul at all. Just none. Someone like that would think that, if you copied the Mona Lisa and you made another computer printout of it with using the same inks, that it would be, no, there's a totally different soul between those two. The brush strokes, the illumination, how the light refracts and diffracts from the surface curvature of the painting, and you cannot, and nor does there exist, a CAD-assisted software application that tells you the artistic qualities that make a lens absolutely incredible. And this is also an undeniable fact. Some of the absolute very best lenses, almost all of them, we really do all of them, since all lens design is a trade-off. The very best lenses that produce the most incredible, remarkable images, they've got what other morons, and I am going to call them morons, because what they'll do is they'll look at an image and they'll go, well, that lens got chromatic aberration, that lens got vein. And it's like, no, you don't get it. You don't see the color saturation, the depth, the micro contrast. All people usually look at is resolution and vignetting and chromatic. This is the stupid side of photography, that all lens designers are designing things that the three things people care about, and this is all they care about anymore because they don't know any damn better. They don't. It's kind of like the Chinese have discovered that Americans are addicted to MSG, and it's like you could take crappy food, and if you stick enough MSG on it, it really tastes good. It's like, well, it's crap. It's like, let's pour some more MSG on it. Or like, people make fun of Americans. It's like, well, you're going to take a beautiful cut of meat and then pour some ketchup on it. People in general, is like, I want a lens with high resolution, no chromatic aberration, and basically no vignetting. And all these dumbass lens designers, Nikon included, Zeiss especially recently, are making these lenses to meet those demands. And, customers are not always right. And this is bad policy because, I see people praising some of these. It's like, you don't even see what the hell I'm seeing. You don't even recognize the soul that has been lost out of this lens, because what you've done is you've bleached all the beauty out of what this lens is capable of. I could take this lens right here and redesign it. If this lens was redesigned today by Nikon or Zeiss, what they'd do is they'd stick in like twice as many elements, and it'd have no chromatic aberration. It'd be super sharp corner to corner, and it'd have no vignetting. but it will have just been the exact same crap as taking a $30 cut per pound of filet mignon